How are you today? The improved package has arrived. We're having it fitted in time for FP1. Have a look at the factory report.
And so we're back to just about a happy Chris there. What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2017 career mode, episode number 39 today for the Brazilian Grand Prix, the penultimate episode of this season 2 of our career mode in the Renault F1 team. And we've finally got that new part fitted, and probably will most likely be the last part we ever have fitted to this car in this season. The rear downforce upgrade that we had to actually spend an extra 500 last episode fixing after it failed the R&D process. We finally got that on the car. As I mentioned, it will be useful around here at Brazil, of course. Sector 2, so tight and twisty, high-speed section here at Brazil. That will help us out. Last season, we didn't perform too well as a whole in terms of qualifying. We gained a lot of positions due to grid penalties, and then it was a very odd race, if you remember correctly from Season 1. We kind of got robbed of a podium there. If you remember, we had a kind of weird safety car glitch where I couldn't catch up to the safety car in time, and that gave me a pretty hefty penalty, which I think saw me finish down in like P7 or P8 when I was running in P2. So I'm still, to be honest, I still remember that quite vividly, and that was still quite annoying, to be honest. So I'm looking for a bit of revenge, really, as we come here once again for the second time now in this career mode, in a different car, obviously in the banana car now, the Renault car. And so with the engine components swapped out, we're going to go towards practice for the second last time this season to try and earn as many points as we can in the R&D practice programs. And of course, as I mentioned last episode, pretty much now I've decided I'm going to be ceasing R&D, kind of air quotes, because there's no actual cease R&D button on this year's game in 2017 compared to 2016, but you know what I mean. I'm basically going to be saving all my points. I'm not going to be spending any. We did spend 750 at the end of last episode doing a, an efficiency control basically on the chassis part of the tree, which means I minus 10% from the cost of the chassis R&D part of the tree. But I think I'm going to leave pretty much everything now as it is and just going to let that kind of build up from the R&D points we get from practice, the quali, and the race for the last two races. And then, of course, we should be getting a pretty nice bonus at the end of the season for doing a pretty decent job in the Renault. You might, obviously, we're trying to get Red Bull. If we do get third place in the Constructors, we do manage that. I think at the moment, we're only a couple of points behind after last episode. You would imagine if we do get that, hopefully, the team would be willing to give us a pretty decent bonus of R&D points to really spend straight away over the winter period, because some of you guys have also commented that if we do upgrade the car after Abu Dhabi, that will kind of instantly get us there. Those upgrades will instantly come for the Australian Grand Prix, like as if it's a winter kind of upgrade, basically. So that's the plan there, but we're going to move anyway in towards the actual first bit of proper action in this video as we go on towards Q1. You can see all nice and sunny, and for the race, we do have a forecast of rain potentially, so I am going to be looking to do the Q2 strategy I did at Mexico. Of course, it kind of worked. Some of you guys were kind of debating in the comments below if it really did kind of work, and maybe in hindsight, I should have done the two-stop. I mean, in the end, we kind of bodged it and made it work best of the rest, stayed ahead of Verstappen, so all in all, can't complain from that episode, but it kind of, at least half worked. It did what I wanted to do, which was set me up for a conservative strategy. So we get into Q1. Nico really performed quite well compared to me. You can see I only just about got into Q1. Now, I did change the components around. It's not like I forgot about the components. That was just my performance, really. And looking back at Season 1, I think in Season 1 we had an issue on our qualifying lap, so that was my excuse in Season 1. This time round, really just didn't find the groove of Brazil over one lap. Of course, that can always change in the race with heavier fuel and just what can ever happen with the AI in the race. But over one lap, I don't know how it's going to go, really. You can see we are on the soft tyre, so we are trying this slower tyre in Q2. Of course, that will mean that we start on this tyre, and that is if we get into the top 10, really. And at the moment, that may be a bit tricky as we come through the final few corners, climbing up the hill a little bit gingerly on the exit there, on the traction. But climbing up now, we're going to wait for the DRS point and open it, and we're going to move to the left-hand side, the shortest run to the line, and we'll see what the lap time is going to be. For now, it is going to get us up into P6, but this is earlier on in the session because I had a hunch it wasn't going to be good enough. I just could already tell it wasn't going to be good enough. And as we kind of go through the session, I'm just waiting on basically the AI to set their lap times. You can see Nico already beats me. You can see there, I'm already outside the top 10, so I kind of back out of that screen, panic a little bit. I kind of wait a little bit longer. I can see, yeah, it's not really going to, I'm not going to magically just climb up there. We're in P13 then, so it's time to call in for the setup kind of iPad, I guess you could say, whatever, the tablet, and kind of lower the fuel, change the tyre set onto the super softs, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to just go for it, and if we do get into the top 10, I'm just going to have to suck it up and start on the super soft tyres. So only the second race of attempting the Q2 strategy of starting on the kind of middle tyre, and it's already kind of failing here at Brazil. But, yeah, I mean, these things happen sometimes. You just don't get in the groove. So we're going to climb up the hill and hopefully get into the top 10 on the Super Soft set. We are into P14 at the moment, so we're pretty much last in the session, if apart from Danica Fiat. So as we come across the line, what is it going to be? It is, I think that was P12 I saw on the top left, and it's going to be P13 by the time we end out this session. So Hulkenberg just about gets into the top 10. I don't even get into the top 10. So in reality, all that faff about the soft tire versus the super softs, it's not even going to matter. I'm gonna be able to start on whatever tire I want to because I'm not in the top 10. So yeah, I'm kind of now crossing my fingers that there's plenty of grid penalties, but yeah, at the moment, a little bit of a head scratcher. And just like Season 1, we are knocked out. Well, we didn't get knocked out in Season 1, but just like Season 1, we're out of the top 10. So just going to have to hope for a better race, and we'll try and see what we do against the Red Bull cars. Let's go.
As the drivers complete their preparations down below us on the grid, one man who's no stranger to the pre-race pressure is Anthony Davidson, who joins me in the commentary box today. Great to have you with us, Ant. I'm sure you can tell us all about what goes through a driver's head before lights out.
But from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the run down into turn 1. It's all a bit like going into battle, and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course, you have to make sure that all the procedures are second nature to you, so that they're not taking up too much of your capacity.
Well then, after an exciting qualifying session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and Kimi Räikkönen completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Magnussen, Ocon, Renault and Bottas, Wehrlein, Ericsson, Hamilton and Daniel Ricciardo, Grosjean, Van Dorn, Fernando Alonso and Stroll, Kvyat, Sainz, Felipe Massa and Sergio Perez. Hulkenberg and Max Verstappen completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So as you can see, grid penalties did indeed come in to play in a very, very big way. And we've climbed up to a very big, lofty P5 compared to our P13. Unfortunately, our teammate Nico Hulkenberg got a significant amount of penalties, and he's starting on the last row of the grid, although he is starting also alongside Max Verstappen. So both those guys got so many penalties that they went from what was a top 7 finish all the way to the last row. So they must have changed every single component in the engine, that must mean. But that does mean that pretty much it's me versus Ricciardo and Hulkenberg v Verstappen for the race. I believe Ricciardo is still in the top 10, but he's behind me now due to his penalties. But pretty much just like Japan, it's me v him, and then Hulkenberg has to take care of Verstappen. Both of them, they might not even score points. But you can see on the strategy window, we've changed it to a 2-stop with 2 sets of soft tyres. But with rain forecast for the end of this race, we may not even use that 3rd set of dry tyres, the super soft. So here we go towards 5 red lights for the Brazilian Grand Prix. The second last race of this season is underway as the lights have gone out, and Räikkönen with a really good start to maybe challenge Vettel into turn 1. We're up into Rich Mix, diving down the inside of Esteban Ocon in P4 there. He's on the super soft. We've just about managed to nip past him there, having to go right up the gearbox of Kevin Magnussen, but I definitely did not want to get bullied out of that corner in turn 2 like the AI definitely have done in Season 1 to me in that same corner. So we got past and we're up into P4, wasting no time, being very aggressive at the start of this race because I was really quite peeved off at my performance in qualifying. Wanted to make up for it. Yes, obviously we got lucky being up into P5, and now I need to make the most of it here, especially with one of the Red Bulls completely out of contention pretty much with Verstappen. Ricciardo's still there though. You can see there, as I literally just mentioned him, there is Verstappen still in last place, and Hulkenberg is still in second last place. So that's where they started on this grid. So pretty much you would say, unless they get really lucky with a strategy call and they go absolutely hammer time right now in this first stint, they're pretty much out of the running for maybe some high points, maybe low end points, but I would like to think maybe Hulkenberg can keep Verstappen behind in that scenario. But meanwhile, the other Red Bull car, there is Daniel Ricciardo. I mentioned he's still in contention there. He's only 4 positions back behind now what is one of the Mercedes cars of Valtteri Bottas, and then obviously the Force India I just overtook, and hopefully I can get another car ahead of it between us, which will be the Haas of Magnussen. But while I talked about that, we can see Räikkönen goes down the inside of Sebastian Vettel for the lead of the Grand Prix. The 2 Ferraris go toe-to-toe through the center S, and Räikkönen just about nips past Vettel. Can Vettel have any answer for him as we go down the back straight now? Obviously no DRS DRS activated quite yet. It's only lap 2. But can Vettel dive down the inside? Doesn't look like it. He stays back. But oh, Kimi's made a mistake. Kimi's off. Kimi's locked up, just like Verstappen did at Mexico. He's off. He's come back very slowly. Hampers Magnussen's line, and so now can we try and whip it around the outside? We get on the curbing as Magnussen doesn't leave us too much room, but down the inside, up the hill into Sector 2, and we're up into P3 now. So very opportunistic here at the start of this race. Very aggressive indeed. And you can see Esteban Ocon has also followed us through. They're still side by side actually, but I think Ocon may just get this on the exit of that left-hander. Yes, he will. So he's up into P4. Magnussen down to P5, you can see, followed by Valtteri Bottas and then Daniel Ricciardo. So you would imagine Bottas and Ricciardo would eventually get going basically and overtake Ocon and Magnussen, and pretty much then it's a case of if I can defend from them. That's a pretty big if. But now we move back to this fight between the two Ferrari cars. 1 or 2 laps later, Raikkonen eventually closes back up to Vettel. So Raikkonen did the job actually, but then kind of bottled it into that braking zone. But now with DRS down the inside, and he gets it even before the corner comes to him, the apex comes to him, and he's back up into first place. So Kimi obviously leading the championship and showing why he is. I mean, momentarily he didn't, but now he's showing the pace he has. So the raw pace is definitely there, but the composure definitely wasn't for that one split second. But it's no dramas for him. He's back into the lead now. It's a 1-2 still for Ferrari, so they'll be very, very happy with that, especially with Hamilton down the order with their engine penalty and Bottas being the only one in the top 5 at the moment as he goes to overtake Esteban Ocon there around the outside of the right-hand side of the circuit. And you can see Ricciardo, though, still unable to get past Magnussen there. So Ricciardo at the moment still 2 places back and in the same position he has been for the entirety of this race. So it looks like maybe the Red Bulls have set their car up for too much downforce and not enough straight line speed, because with DRS he tries to go for a move, but look at that, he's actually stayed behind Magnussen keeping him at base. That's quite crucial for us, very important for us indeed, because remember there's only 4 points in this between Renault and Red Bull after the last race. Of course, if you factor out Hülkenberg and Verstappen, who are at the moment still, I would imagine, quite low down the order, it's me versus Ricciardo, and at the moment I'm in P3, maybe spoiled and go down to P4, but Bottas, as he goes down the inside, even if he does overtake us, which he definitely will do because of the downforce of that Mercedes car, we're down to P4, but that is going to be 12 points for P4, and if Ricciardo stays down in what is at the moment P5, 6, 7, P7, that would be how many points? 12, 10, 8, that'll be around 8 points, I think that's correct. I'm trying to do math on the fly, never a good idea when I'm also trying to concentrate on what's happening on screen, but you get what I'm trying to say. The more, the bigger the gap between me and Ricciardo, the better for us. And as we move later onto the race, a couple laps later, where Ricciardo gets to the point where he needs to come into the pits, and he's yet to overtake Magnussen or Ocon. So this is absolutely great for us. Ricciardo was unable to get those two, and he's already coming for his first pit stop. So at the moment, it's all coming up us and all coming up Renault, because Ricciardo didn't look like he had the pace. I mean, he may do later on, I don't know, maybe on lower fuel, the Red Bull's going to be a bit nippier in a straight line, obviously. But, you know, he was on super soft tyres, Magnussen was on softs. Yes, Ocon was on super softs, but Magnussen was on the same tyres as me, soft tyres. And so you would have imagined and hoped that the Red Bull car on super softs would be able to overtake that Haas in the corners at least, maybe in Sector 2. But no, with the amount of dirty air and just this kind of single file nature of that sector, Ricciardo unable to go. As you can see there, Bottas has also come in, and I believe at this point also the two Ferraris have also made their first pit stop of the afternoon. So you can see as we move later, we're into P1 at the moment, leading this race, followed by Esteban Ocon and then Kevin Magnussen. And then not too far down the road actually is the two Ferraris lining astern of Kimi Raikkonen and Sebastian Vettel, you can see just in the distance there. So that's just showing how much pace Ferrari have around this circuit to be so close to us, having already made one pit stop. Raikkonen and Vettel both on super soft tyres. So Ferrari going for a very aggressive strategy. I believe also, I can't remember actually, but I think Ricciardo also came on to super soft tyres. So a lot of these guys going very aggressive, whereas obviously me and Magnussen going conservative, and even Ocon's going aggressive because he started on the super softs. And actually, it's going to be, he's not going to be overtaken before he makes his pit stop. He comes in the pits now, and the two Ferrari cars are yet to overtake him. I think they'll overtake Magnussen just about now. There goes Raikkonen down the inside of turn 1. Now, pretty much my thinking was I would stay out as long as these two Ferraris weren't overtaking Magnussen and Ocon. Now on this lap you can see Raikkonen did overtake him, and it looks like maybe Vettel should be able to overtake Magnussen in a straight line down here with DRS wide open. But pretty much either way, now that Raikkonen has been released into free air, that's my call basically to come in on this next lap. So it's lap 15 now, and that same lap just earlier on, that was the same lap that Raikkonen overtook Magnussen. So we're coming into the pits now. I don't know if Magnussen's going to join me on that, but I definitely think now is the time to come in because those guys are released into free air. It looks like Magnussen actually continued on there ahead of Sebastian Vettel. So K-Mag trying to do the best he can to be a bit of a mobile chicane for the German there. But we come into the pits and we're going to strap on a set of medium tyres. So, I didn't actually mention this at all so far in this race, in this episode, but yes, my strategy said 2-stop with 2 sets of soft tyres and then going on to the set of super softs. So obviously though, it's going to rain, and you could see it's lap 15, or it's now lap 16, but you saw there on the indicator on my heads-up display how worn those soft tyres were. The game thought I should be able to take soft tyres to a very easy lap 16 potentially, but on lap 15, they're pretty much up to 60, you know, you had the rear right tyre on 72%, so a lot of tyre wear here at Brazil, at least for the Renault car. So I decided to switch the strategy onto a set of medium tyres, and that should hopefully take us comfortably to that wet period. Also, that opens us up to, if the game is toying with me on the weather forecast and it doesn't even rain enough to switch onto inters, then I'm fine and comfortable on the hardest compounded tyre available at this weekend, because I'm trying to think back to Austria where it just wasn't wet enough for the inters there and we got screwed over a little bit having made an extra pit stop and not going conservative. So we move much later on then into lap 22 now, and you can see Daniel Ricciardo, who was ahead of us this entire time after I came out of the pit stops, he finally makes his second pit stop of the afternoon onto a set of soft tyres. So he's gone super soft now, and he'll be going to the end of the Grand Prix, or to the wet period pretty much. But you can see as he comes down the pit lane, we go through the first 2 turns of center S's, and we're up into P4 now. So that entire time, I was a little bit worried that Ricciardo was ahead of us that entire time, but I kind of forgot he had that second pit stop to make, and at the same time, my teammate there comes to the pits. You can see Bottas just ahead of us, so I think Bottas also must have made a pit stop just on that lap onto a set of soft tyres. So I kind of forgot for a second how many pit stops that I had made yet in that Grand Prix. So thankfully for me, I had miscounted and there was only 1 so far. So we're up into P4 and we are ahead of that Red Bull car. And now Ricciardo, speaking of him, he does make a move eventually to overtake Esteban Ocon. So he did find himself behind him, because remember Ocon also, as you can see there just about, he's on mediums. Ocon went super soft to mediums. Once again, the Force Indies must have upgraded their tyre wear, because the Force Indies so many times have taken super softs as long as I have taken soft tyres, which is just crazy, and it kind of shows the power of that. So maybe that's something we need to look at long term for Renault potentially, if we you know, because we know the conservative strategy works very well in this game. But Ocon goes super softs to the medium tyres. Crazy. But Ricciardo is able to overtake him then this time round. Thankfully for him, it would have been a bit of a tragic kind of Grand Prix if Ricciardo just was unable to overtake anyone in a straight line due to the amount of downforce they put on the setup. You can see now we finally get some action. It's been a bit of a strategic race, annoyingly for me. I've not actually seen too much racing action for myself in terms of going wheel to wheel, apart from overtaking Magnussen at the start. And so lapping these cars of Alonso and what was, I think, was Ericsson, the Sauber, or one of the Saubers. It doesn't really matter, does it? It's just one of the slow Saubers, really. So that was a bit of action for me. Meanwhile, though, some action for Ricciardo, and he overtakes the second car of the afternoon, this second stint, and it's going to be the other car he was unable to overtake firstly in the first stint of Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen also on the medium tyres. Ricciardo, again, as we mentioned, on the soft tyres, so obviously he's going to have the grip advantage compared to those two, and he does have the speed to go down the inside. But now on that same lap, just up the road is little old me in P4, and going into Sector 2, locking up on the left tyre there as we lose grip, and there's too much water now on the track, and it's time to come in for the intermediate tyres. We call to Jeff Box this lap, and Kimi Raikkonen up ahead is going to think the exact same thing, because as we cut onto him, he's already coming to the pit lane as we're just trundling through into Sector 2. As he comes in, though, he goes a little bit wide, and there's been contact with a kind of invisible wall, and he's lost his front wing, and that's a horrible crash there for Raikkonen, and he's lost half his front wing, and the Mercedes car's closed right up to him there. I think that's the Mercedes car, and he comes in on intermediates, but they haven't changed his front wing. Oh, Ferrari, you've bottled it. You've bottled it, guys. Raikkonen was in the lead of this race, and he's crashed into the pit lane for one, and now he's not changed his front wing. And that was a Williams car, sorry. That wasn't the Mercedes. That was the Williams car of either Lance Stroll or Massa. It doesn't really matter, to be fair. But Raikkonen, that is devastation for him. So we cut back to us, and we're coming in now. Eventually, we do manage to just about drift our way through to the pit lane, pretty much, as the rain really did start to come down very rapidly on that lap 31. But we're into the intermediates. We get held up a little bit by the Sauber, but thankfully not enough to get held up enough to get overtaken by Ricciardo. But we come out of the pits now, but that's the question now. Has Raikkonen lost the lead of this race now, because he'll be going so slowly? I'm not too sure. That's very interesting to see how that's going to pan out. But meanwhile for us, we're just concentrating on us. We're into P4 still, and Ricciardo is in P5. So now the job is for 4 laps now, can we just keep the Red Bull at bay to bring home what will be a really great P4? That'll be 12 points for us and 10 points for Ricciardo, so we won't overtake Red Bull at this rate. But you can see later on that next lap, this is Sebastian Vettel from the lead of the race. He went on for one more lap, of course, as Raikkonen made his pit stop. So Vettel into the pits from soft tyres onto intermediate. And so now the question is, where on earth is Raikkonen? And there he is, coming down the pits for the second time in this wet period. And this will be to finally change the front wing. Oh, it's a disaster. Disaster for Scuderia Ferrari and for Kimi Raikkonen. Look how long that's taking. That's an absolute age of a pit stop. They had to wait to obviously they had to compose themselves after doing Vettel's pit stop. And then they've made that pit stop. So Raikkonen now down to P3. There we are on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see going through the first two turns. And we're up into P3. We've just stolen the podium from Kimi Raikkonen. We've just out of nowhere been gifted the podium thanks to Raikkonen crashing. There is Ricciardo. That's a lovely shot to see there. Lovely camera angle. Myself, Raikkonen and Ricciardo. P3, P4. P5, and we're all going to battle for P3 now as we come through to the last few laps of the race. But it's Sebastian Vettel in first place and Valtteri Bottas in second. Now remember, Vettel won the Mexican Grand Prix, so what will that mean for the championship? We'll have to see at the end of this race what the standings are, but I think that could be quite crucial for Raikkonen, especially if I try and keep Raikkonen behind, because of course now P3 I get 15 points, Ricciardo's still only getting 10, so that'll be 5 points gained on Red Bull, which should see us overtake them in the constructors for now going to the last race. So I'm going to try my best to keep Raikkonen at bay. And you can see up the hill in Rich Mix, just like at the Canadian Grand Prix, it looks like Raikkonen is not using Rich Mix at this stage. He doesn't have enough fuel. So as we go through the exit on the last corner, again for the second time, as I look back behind me as well, on the minimap you can see pulling away from Raikkonen with Rich Mix versus I don't think he has enough fuel to use Rich Mix. So we are going to keep this P3. It's going to be a great podium for us, a great day all round for the Renault team, as we are, I think that's going to be overtaking Red Bull for third place in the constructors going into the last race, keeping pressure off ourselves. But one more thing, even more maybe important than us, is this battle for the Drivers' Championship. Sebastian Vettel just won this race. He won the last race as well, so 2 wins on the trot there for the German. And with Raikkonen down in P4, that is going to mean big things, I think, because Vettel was only about 22 points off, I think. So that may close it down to less than 10 points, which is going to be pretty big, because going to the final round, you just never know what's going to happen. Grid penalties, you never know. Me and the 2 Red Bulls could come into the works and ruin the party, really, as we squabble over P3 in the constructors. So that's going to be interesting as well. So good to see that in this season so far, season 2, it's not only a battle for me against the Red Bulls and Renault v the Red Bull cars, there's also some other good scraps to look at between the AI cars. And you can see there, confirmation, Vettel only 9 points off Raikkonen. That's pretty big. That's actually quite significant. Vettel, I think he fancies himself, because surely going into that last race with 2 wins in the trot, if he wins that one and say Raikkonen finishes in third place, that's doable. And with the 2 Mercedes cars, they'll surely perform well. You know, you would like to think at least one of them would. I think Vettel could be on for an upset here, because Raikkonen's pretty much looked like the best guy throughout the entire season, even versus the 2 Mercedes. He's pretty much had all the luck, all the kind of pace in the world. Yeah, so that's going to be very interesting. But for us, getting back to our fight, we're in P3 now in the constructors. Absolutely awesome. So close, though. That's not going to, we still have pressure. But as I mentioned, that's just a little bit less pressure on us, because we're the ones ahead. Red Bull are the ones chasing us. But we still have to do the job, because it's literally one of the Red Bulls finishing ahead of me in the race for the next episode, in the last race. And that's our third place loss. So we need to concentrate, but that sets things up very beautifully for the finale of Season 2. That's going to be a really good one to watch. Just not just for my fight, but also, as I mentioned just then, as well for the 2 Ferraris fighting. So, awesome stuff. So, guys, if you have enjoyed that episode, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're out here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. And this is all set us up for a really great last episode. You can see also our gearbox is a little bit worn, so we may have a little bit of a nervous gearbox, and I really hope to God we don't lose a gear in the middle of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But it's been a fantastic season so far, and hopefully we can round out the end there with a great finish at Abu Dhabi to stay in third place. But guys, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.